Imagine a bank. Not just any bank. A bank that holds more money than the entire GDP of countries like Hungary, or New Zealand, or Kuwait. $120 billion. Now imagine this bank has no headquarters you can visit, no marble lobbies, no branch offices, no banking license from any government on earth. It is run by a former plastic surgeon who quit medicine because it wasn't profitable enough, and an executive who was the compliance officer during the biggest cheating scandal in online poker history. This isn't a conspiracy theory you found on Reddit at 3 a.m. This is Tether. It is the invisible engine of the entire crypto economy. The dollar that circulates through every exchange, every trade, every transaction. The supposed stablecoin that keeps the whole machine running. For years, Wall Street analysts, regulators, and forensic accountants have asked one brutally simple question: do they actually have the money? Because if the answer is no, then the Bitcoin sitting in your wallet right now, the Ethereum you bought, the altcoins you're holding, they aren't worth what you think they are. If Tether falls, everything falls. The entire house of cards collapses in real time. And the evidence suggests the collapse has already begun.
To understand the scam, you have to meet the scammers, or at least try to find them. This is Giancarlo Devasini, the mastermind, the CFO, the man behind the curtain. Before he controlled the beating heart of the global crypto market, he was a plastic surgeon in Milan, Italy. He quit medicine, not because of ethics, not because of burnout, because it wasn't lucrative enough. So he pivoted, started selling computer parts and electronics across Europe, built up a nice little import business, until Microsoft sued him for software piracy. He paid a fine to stay out of prison. Today, this man, this former surgeon turned convicted pirate, controls a money printer that can create billions of dollars out of thin air with the push of a button. But he doesn't work alone. Meet the lawyer, Stuart Hergner, Tether's general counsel, the man who signs off on their legal compliance. Before Tether, Hergner was the director of compliance for Ultimate Bet, one of the biggest online poker platforms of the 2000s. If you play poker, you know that name. You know what happened there. Ultimate Bet had a secret weapon. They called it God Mode. Insiders, executives and their friends used hidden software to see their opponents' hole cards. They could see everyone's hand. They cheated players out of millions of dollars over years. The man who was responsible for compliance during that systematic fraud is now the man telling you that Tether's $120 billion in reserves are totally safe, totally legitimate. Sleep well. And then there's the CEO, Jean-Louis van der Velde, or as the crypto community calls him, the Ghost. For years, literal years, he was never seen on video. No interviews, no conferences, no public appearances. Just a name on a website, a signature on documents filed in jurisdictions with no extradition treaties. Why hide? Why operate in the shadows like a fugitive? Because Tether isn't a tech company building the future of finance. It's a shadow bank, operating outside every law designed to protect depositors. And in 2018, those shadows almost consumed them entirely.
Crypto exchanges have a fundamental problem. Real banks hate them.
Traditional financial institutions won't touch crypto companies. Too risky, too dirty, too many questions about where the money comes from. So Tether and its sister company, Bitfinex, same owners, same offices, same bank accounts, used what they called a payment processor. Its real name was Crypto Capital Corp, based in Panama, which should have been the first red flag. It wasn't a bank. It wasn't even a legitimate payment processor. It was a money laundering operation run by a former NFL team owner and a network of international fraudsters. In 2018, governments around the world, the US, Poland, Portugal, simultaneously froze Crypto Capital's accounts. Overnight, Bitfinex lost access to $850 million of customer money. $850 million. They were insolvent, bankrupt, technically dead. Leaked chat logs, later obtained by investigators, show Devasini desperately messaging contacts. Please, this could be extremely dangerous for the whole crypto ecosystem. So what did they do? Did they inform their customers? Did they halt trading? Did they file for bankruptcy protection like honest companies do? No, they raided the piggy bank. Tether, the stablecoin, supposedly backed one-to-one by dollars, secretly transferred hundreds of millions from its reserves to Bitfinex to plug the hole. For months, every time someone bought Tether thinking it was backed by an actual dollar in a bank account, it was actually backed by an IOU from a bankrupt exchange that had lost merely $1 billion. The New York Attorney General eventually caught them. Letitia James called it what it was: a lie, a deception, fraud. Tether paid an $18 million fine. $18 million for hiding $850 million. A parking ticket for grand larceny. But here's the terrifying part. They got away with it. No one went to jail. No executives were charged. The company kept operating. And then, they started printing faster. Since that near-death experience, Tether's supply has exploded. From 2 billion in circulation to over 120 billion. A vertical line on every chart. Exponential growth that defies every economic principle. Where does this money come from? Tether claims it comes from legitimate investors depositing real cash, institutions, hedge funds, crypto whales exchanging dollars for tokens. But researchers, academic researchers like John Griffin and Armin Shams from the University of Texas, found something else. They found that massive batches of Tether, billions of dollars worth, are printed during very specific moments, exactly when Bitcoin is crashing. It works like this. Bitcoin starts dropping, panic spreads, selling accelerates. Suddenly, Tether prints 1 billion new tokens out of absolutely nothing. No corresponding bank deposit, no incoming wire transfer. They use those freshly minted tokens to buy Bitcoin on exchanges they control or have relationships with. The artificial demand pushes the price back up. The market stabilizes. The value of their own reserves, which now include the Bitcoin they just bought, increases on paper. They point to those reserves and claim solvency. It's a perpetual motion machine, an infinite money glitch. They print fake money to buy real assets. Those assets go up in value because of their own fake buying. They use those inflated values to justify printing more fake money. It's Ponzi economics at civilizational scale. But for this to work, you need a place to hide the evidence. Enter the Bahamas. Specifically, Deltec Bank and Trust, a tiny private bank operating out of a gated community called Lyford Key. This small building, surrounded by yacht clubs and vacation homes, supposedly holds the billions of dollars that back the entire crypto market. Is the money there? Tether promises it is. They publish letters, attestations, documents with official-looking letterhead, but they have never, not once, ever, submitted to a full, independent, public audit by a reputable accounting firm. Instead, they give us attestations, a snapshot of a bank account balance at one specific moment in time. It's like borrowing a Ferrari for 30 minutes, taking a selfie in the driver's seat, sending it to your girlfriend as proof you're rich, and returning the car an hour later.
But the walls are closing in. The United Nations, not some crypto blogger, the actual United Nations, recently released a report naming Tether as the preferred currency for organized crime in Southeast Asia. Pig butchering scams that destroy lives, human trafficking rings, cyber fraud operations, all of it fueled by USDT flowing through the Tron network, which charges almost nothing in fees and asks zero questions. The US Department of Justice is circling. Multiple investigations. Whispers of bank fraud indictments coming down. So Tether is trying to pivot. They're trying to become too big to jail. They're buying massive amounts of US Treasury bonds through Cantor Fitzgerald on Wall Street. They're buying 80 tons of gold and hiding it in Swiss vaults. They're spending $600 million on AI chips through a shell game involving Northern Data and other fronts. They're investing in brain-computer interfaces. They're buying influence in the city of Lugano, Switzerland. Why? Because if you own enough US government debt and enough gold and enough critical infrastructure, maybe the government won't shut you down. Maybe. But remember, Bernie Madoff lasted for decades. Enron was a Fortune 500 darling. FTX had a Super Bowl commercial and celebrity endorsements 6 months before it imploded. They all looked solvent. They all had fancy offices and expensive lawyers. Until the day they weren't. Until the day they couldn't.
So what happens when Tether breaks? Not if, when. Imagine $120 billion of liquidity vanishing in seconds. Every major exchange would freeze withdrawals. Bitcoin would plummet to prices you haven't seen since 2020, maybe 2018. Your stablecoin, the thing you thought was safe, would be worth zero. Tether isn't just another crypto company. It is a structural risk to the financial safety of the internet itself. They tell us to trust them, to have faith, to believe. But in a world supposedly built on the principle of verify, don't trust, why is the most important piece of the entire puzzle hidden in a black box in the Bahamas? The clock is ticking. The music is still playing. For now. But when it stops, make sure you're holding a chair, not a bag. Because this time, when the collapse comes, there won't be a government bailout. There won't be a Fed intervention. There will only be the sound of billions of dollars disappearing into the void. And the people who saw it coming will be the only ones left standing.